is about understanding the emotional architecture of the feminine, the same way Machiavelli understood the architecture of the human mind. Once you grasp this mechanism, seduction starts to feel almost unfair, because everything flows so naturally, so precisely, that she believes it was her idea, and in a way, it was. You simply guided the choice. That is how the game begins. Subtle, silent, calculated, yet always elegant. The first thing you must understand is this: women are not attracted to the obvious. The obvious is predictable, and the predictable is boring. What awakens a woman's interest is the feeling that she is standing in front of a man who sees more, knows more, and rushes less. Machiavelli warned that the hurried man loses power because his urgency exposes his dependence on approval. So you never show hunger, you never show desperation, you never show need. You carry yourself as if you already possess what you want, and that is when she begins to wonder what your secret is. Seduction that feels too easy seems almost illegal because it disarms a woman's defenses before she can even build a wall. This does not happen through magic words, but through micro gestures, the gaze that lingers 1 second longer, the almost invisible smile at the corner of your mouth, the calmness of a man unafraid of silence. Women sense all of this with a sensitivity most men never notice. She picks up your posture, she notices the rhythm of your breathing, she detects the tranquility with which you occupy space. It is not your words that seduce her, it is your presence. The mistake of ordinary men is trying to compensate for insecurity with excess. They talk too much, they explain too much, they compliment too much, and excess exposes a lack of value. Machiavelli would teach that when you reveal too much, you lose the mystery, and mystery is the beating heart of seduction. What is hard to decipher becomes impossible to ignore. You do not give her your whole story. You offer scattered chapters, half-opened sentences, calculated hints. She fills the rest with her imagination, and her imagination works in your favor long before you ever touch her. But seducing a woman with this level of ease is not about treating the process like an intellectual contest. It is guiding her like someone holding a delicate flame, firm enough not to let it die, gentle enough not to crush it. The Machiavellian secret is making everything look spontaneous. You plant small seeds, you let them grow in silence, and when she finally realizes what is happening, she is already deeply invested. Not because you pushed, but because you created the emotional conditions for her to walk that path on her own. Everything begins with your energy. Energy is not mysticism, it is behavioral reading. If you arrive tense, she becomes tense. If you arrive insecure, she closes up. But if you arrive with the quiet firmness of a man who has nothing to prove, her entire internal world reorganizes itself to try to understand you. That curiosity is the first step of Machiavellian seduction, and once you awaken the right curiosity, the rest unfolds almost automatically. She starts observing you more than she observes others. She listens to your words with unusual attention. She imagines things without realizing she is imagining them. Seduction happens inside her, not inside you. Women are highly sensitive to perceived value, not displayed value. Displayed value feels fake. Perceived value feels natural. You show value in the way you handle the unexpected, in the way you do not seek approval, in the way you speak slowly, in the way you remain composed when other men would fall apart. Every detail multiplies the impact of your presence. She cannot explain exactly why she feels something different, but she feels it. And that is enough. It is in this space, between the conscious and the unconscious, that seduction begins to feel almost illegal. Not because you manipulate, but because you operate on a level most people never notice. You touch internal points that lie above language, and before she realizes it, she is already giving signals, playing with her hair, adjusting her posture, glancing at you at regular intervals, asking questions that seem trivial but carry intention. She begins to want your attention. And there is no greater power than that. When she senses that you control the rhythm, she willingly moves to your tempo, but you maintain the lightness, the charm, the calmness of a man who could walk away at any moment. And because you could walk away, she wants you to stay. The human mind values what it believes it can lose. Machiavelli knew. Women know it too. And now you learn to turn this into a silent art. Machiavellian seduction continues exactly where ordinary men give up, in the subtlety. This is where you realize that women do not fall for brute intensity, but for slow layers, almost invisible layers, that stack themselves inside her without her noticing. The secret is not to impress her, it is to replace the idea she has of you with the idea you want her to have. And you build that with small impacts so natural that she cannot even categorize them as strategy. The first layer is emotional. You become a breath of air. Everyone demands something from her. Family, work, friends, social media, but not you. You become the space where she can relax, where she does not have to pretend, where she does not have to compete. Your energy says, I am not here to fight you, I am here to see you. And that sensation disarms any woman. The power lies in not wanting anything immediately while making it clear that you are present by choice, not by loneliness. The second layer is controlled unpredictability. This does not mean disappearing. It does not mean being cold. It means being slightly less available than she expects, yet more present than other men are capable of being. A calculated balance. You answer when you choose, but when you answer, it is memorable. You do not vanish out of ego. You simply have a life. And the moment she notices that, she adjusts to your rhythm. Your time becomes valuable to her because you do not hand it out for free. Men who throw themselves at her too quickly make her lose interest just as quickly. What comes too easy feels cheap. Machiavelli would say the power lies in the uncertainty of the other side. She must feel she can win you, but not immediately. Seduction is a game of stimulation and restraint. You show a little, pull back a little, provoke a little, stay silent a little. Every action leaves small footprints that she follows without realizing it. The third layer is selective attention. You do not compliment everything. You do not validate everything. You choose the right moments. And when you choose, the impact doubles. Women know the difference between an automatic compliment and an intentional one. Automatic sounds generic. Intentional hits the emotional system. Saying, "You look beautiful," is ordinary. Saying, "The way you adjust your hair when you're thinking is fascinating," touches something deeper. Because it reveals that you notice. Being truly seen is rare and dangerously addictive. The fourth layer is emotional control. She will test you, always. It is instinctive. She provokes, pokes, teases, creates little challenges. Not to disrespect you, but to understand your internal structure. She wants to know if you're steady, if you have self-control, if you don't crumble over small things. If you react with irritation, you lose. If you react with neediness, you lose. But if you answer with humor, with calmness, with elegant detachment, you gain more emotional ground than any rehearsed line could ever give you. The illegal seduction begins in the tranquility you maintain while every other man loses control. And then comes the fifth layer, physical presence without urgency. It is not touching too soon. It is not rushing into impulsive kisses. It is letting your body language enter her space slowly. The closeness of your face when you lower your voice, the light touch on her forearm, the gaze that drops and returns, not like a predator, but like someone who appreciates what he sees. Women interpret these details in amplified resolution. It is not the touch itself, it is the intention behind it. When the intention is mature, calm, grounded, she feels it. She senses herself becoming more interested than she originally planned. This is the moment seduction begins to feel illegal, because you did not take anything from her. You did not force anything. You did not conquer her directly. You simply created a space where she allowed herself to feel something. And when a woman allows herself to feel, the entire game shifts. Now she starts thinking about you during the day. She remembers the things you said. She looks for signs of you without admitting it. She checks if you saw the picture she posted. She becomes more open to conversations she would normally ignore. And most importantly, she begins testing you more frequently. That is the clearest sign that you are already affecting her. Tests are good. Tests mean impact. She only tests what she fears losing. So when the provocations come, you do not confront, you do not complain, you do not dramatize. You smile, you flip the frame, you lead. And through that, she understands something rare. You are not just confident. You are comfortable inside your own energy. That combination is almost extinct. She starts realizing that your calm company soothes her, your attention excites her, your absence bothers her, your presence marks her, and that you see beyond her surface. And no one resists for long being seen that deeply. Seduction happens when she realizes you can touch emotional parts other men overlook, and you do it without rushing, without pushing, just by existing like a man who controls his own axis. And when she senses this, when she feels she is losing control over her interest, she tries to hide it, tries to rationalize it, tries to pretend she is not involved. But her body betrays her, her voice betrays her, her eyes betray her. And this is the point where Machiavellian seduction becomes inevitable. The desire is already planted. You simply wait for it to bloom. When a woman begins to feel that you have an emotional impact she cannot explain, something very important happens. She starts seeing herself through your eyes. Every gesture you make creates an expectation inside her, and that expectation guides her behavior. This is the most delicate moment of Machiavellian seduction because it demands balance. Too much force makes her retreat. Too much softness makes her lose interest. It is in the exact dosage that everything feels inevitable, natural, almost forbidden in its precision. The next step is mastering a simple concept: emotional rhythm. Every woman has an internal rhythm, sometimes fast, anxious, cluttered with thoughts, sometimes slow, deep, contemplative. Most men try to adapt to her rhythm. You do not. You establish your rhythm and invite her to step into it. This changes everything. When your rhythm is calmer, more centered, more secure, she automatically slows down. She feels she is with a man who is not swept away by chaos, but one who controls it. This contrast creates almost instant attraction. And then you use the most powerful weapon in Machiavellian seduction: conscious silence. Not cold silence, not ignoring her. Silence with intention. It is the moment when you simply watch her speak, smile lightly, tilt your head slightly, and let the moment breathe. Women are not used to this. They are used to men who rush to fill every silence. When you refuse to do that, you create tension, and tension is the oxygen of desire. Another crucial point is intelligent humor. Not forced humor, not exaggerated jokes, not recycled lines, but surgical humor that reveals your sharpness. When she provokes you, you respond with a line that disarms her without disrespect. When she tests you, you answer with calmness and ease. And when she realizes you do not fall into predictable reactions, she understands she is facing someone who plays on a higher level. This kind of humor creates an intimate connection because it shows you understand her subtext. And then comes the most dangerous phase: the atmospheric presence. This is when your presence stops being physical and becomes psychological. She thinks of you before sleeping, in the shower, on the bus, at work. You appear in her thoughts without her permission. This happens because you were not overwhelming. You were unforgettable. Every micro-interaction left a deep imprint. It was not quantity, it was quality. And that is what makes you occupy an emotional space other men never even reached. Now, this is where most men make their biggest mistake. When they notice the woman is getting involved, they start accelerating the process. They want quick dates, they want guarantees, they want to advance fast. Machiavelli would never make that mistake. The moment she starts missing you is the moment you must remain most elegant. The mistake is trying to close the deal. The correct strategy is allowing her to take small initiatives, not because you need her to, but because it strengthens her psychological bond with you. Women value what they also help build. If she participates, if she sends the first message one day, if she suggests something, if she expresses interest, it creates roots. You do not eliminate the mystery. You simply open space for her to walk toward you. That gives her the sensation of freedom, and freedom is essential for female desire. When she feels she is choosing you, her interest multiplies. At this point, you begin using proximity in a calculated way. When you are talking to her, lean in just a little closer than normal. Do not touch yet. Simply reduce the distance. This activates internal sensors she cannot control. Proximity alters her breathing pattern, changes her temperature perception, and releases tiny doses of adrenaline and dopamine. You do not need to touch. Just being close is enough. This creates a magnetic field between you, and when you finally touch, touch lightly. Slow, deliberate touches that seem accidental, but are not. A touch on the shoulder when she laughs, a brief touch on the hip when you walk behind her, a slow graze of the hand when you pass something to her. Every touch must feel natural and inevitable. Unexpected, rushed touches break the spell. Subtle touches, on the other hand, build a narrative her body understands better than her mind. But perhaps the most powerful element is this: the way you look at her. The Machiavellian gaze is not intense all the time. It is calibrated. Sometimes you look deeply and say something serious. Sometimes you look away and leave her wanting more. Sometimes you hold eye contact for 2 seconds longer than normal. The gaze creates meanings that words can never reach. When she feels that you see more than she says, a silent intimacy forms. And silent intimacy is addictive. This is why everything feels illegal, because you break the traditional logic of seduction and enter a deeper emotional logic. You touch parts of her that rarely get touched. You create an experience, not a technique. You stop being an option and become an atmosphere. And when that happens, she stops comparing you to other men. You are no longer a candidate, you become an enigma, and the enigma always wins. Then comes the moment when you realize she is completely invested, but still refuses to admit it. She talks about you to her friends, but hides it. She watches you when she thinks you are not looking. She replies to your messages quickly, but tries to act casual. She gives signals she never gave before. All of this means one thing: you now control the emotional narrative. At this point, all you need is the same calm guidance for her to go even deeper. When a woman begins to rotate emotionally around you, the game shifts to a new layer, the layer of silent desire. It is that moment when she still tries convincing herself that she is in control, but deep inside she feels something in you slipping into her mind. This is the most sensitive and the most powerful moment. If you act like an ordinary man, you risk losing everything. If you act like Machiavelli, you turn her desire into inevitability. Here you understand something essential. Your job is not to win her. Your job is to make it impossible for her not to want you. The difference is enormous. Men who try to win, chase, ask for attention, look for signs of approval. Machiavellian men create internal experiences that make a woman chase them, not because you are unreachable, but because you have become emotionally indispensable. The first step of this phase is mastering the art of selective presence. Before, you were present enough to build the bond. Now you gently reduce your frequency, not out of coldness, but out of strategy. You do not disappear. You simply allow her to feel your absence slightly. This creates small emotional gaps that she subconsciously fills by thinking about you. And the more she thinks, the more she wants. Intelligent absence is more seductive than constant presence. But this distance is mathematical, not emotional. You never disappear in important moments. You never leave her lost. You simply give her enough space for her to recognize that she misses you. When you do this, you return with charm, with light energy, with comments that show you remain stable and centered. She realizes your absence is never punishment. It is rhythm. A rhythm she begins to follow. The second step is deep connection, which is not built through obvious questions, but through conversations that reveal nuance. While everyone else asks, "What do you do?" you ask, "What do you seek?" While everyone else compliments her looks, you compliment her choices, her perceptions, her intimate gestures. You step into layers almost no one explores, and when you touch those layers, she opens without noticing. That emotional opening creates vulnerability, and vulnerability creates attachment. This is where the game deepens. You become the only man capable of making her feel something she does not feel with anyone else. It is not about passion, it is about internal sensations, safety, freedom, mystery, curiosity, intensity. You become the perfect balance between emotional danger and psychological comfort. That combination is irresistible to any woman. The third step is using sensuality strategically. Machiavellian sensuality is not explicit, not vulgar, not exaggerated. It hides in the pauses of the conversation, in your tone of voice, in the way you lean closer, in the way you hold your glass, in the movement of your hands as you talk, in the way you glance at her lips when she least expects it. Sensuality manifests in your intention, not your actions. That is why it feels forbidden. It happens without touch, without pressure, without acceleration. And then comes the turning point, the moment she realizes she cares. This usually appears through subtle jealousy. She starts asking about your routine, about other women, about your plans. She tries to map your emotional world. This is not explicit jealousy, but a delicate form of surveillance, a quiet attempt to understand whether there is competition, whether she might be losing ground. And this is perfect, because it means you have become a psychological priority. At this moment, you reply with calculated honesty. You do not promise exclusivity, but you also do not flaunt conquest. You create the impression that you have options, but are not particularly invested in them. This creates the perfect psychological field. She feels she could lose you, but she also feels you choose her. And when a woman feels this, seduction reaches almost irreversible levels. The fourth step is absolute emotional control. Here, you never show anxiety, never demand explanations, never question small behaviors, never react dramatically. You maintain the same elegant coldness that captivated her in the beginning, and this consistency is rare. Ordinary men change the moment they sense they are gaining ground. They become needy, they become emotional, they accelerate everything. You do not. You remain firm, stable, centered. This creates admiration, and admiration is stronger than attraction. Now something inevitable happens. She begins giving you signs far too clear to ignore. She sends longer messages, she replies faster, she tries to extend conversations, she shares personal details, and most importantly, she starts showing care. A kind of care she would never offer unless she was emotionally involved. She notices your mood. She asks about your day. She sends things that remind her of you. Women only do this when they are already invested. This is the phase where seduction feels completely illegal, because everything flows effortlessly. You did not chase, you attracted. You did not pressure, you guided. You did not dominate, you influenced. She does not feel manipulated. She feels understood. You have become everything she was searching for, but could never name. And this is the essence of Machiavellian power in seduction, making her choose you while believing the choice was entirely her own.
What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my 2025 Personal Game of the Year awards. So, today, December 11th actually, is in fact the date of the actual Game Awards, and I figured what better way to celebrate than, of course, try to undercut their viewership with my own cutthroat tactics, which will pull in a whopping 0.01% of their average viewership, effectively ruining their enterprise. In all seriousness, I think one of the fun things about talking about video games and the year in video games that we've had is talking, of course, about the ones you enjoyed the most in relation to a bunch of different categories. And while I'm going to go over here the stuff that is important to me in individual categories, still an important few things to know. For starters, obviously this only includes games that released this year in 2025. Usually, a little towards like Christmas, I will do a video where I rank everything I reviewed in a year, old games included. This is obviously not that. What's more, these are just my personal opinions. Probably says as much right in the title. And last but not least, I've done this a few years in a row, and as such, there are a few games, or game categories I should say, that I usually include that I'm going to leave off here for a couple different reasons, probably the biggest one being the TRPG section. I just didn't play enough TRPGs to really have a ranking here. I mean, realistically, Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles would win this by default. Because of the two new TRPGs that I reviewed this year, it's not even a competition. I also usually like to include the game that my son was the most intrigued by, as I moved to review a bunch of games as well. But honestly, I couldn't tear the kid away from Minecraft this year, and he's also in school and doesn't have as much time to play video games, of course. Either way, moving on to the actual entries themselves. So I wanted to kick it off with something a little bit interesting, which is, I would say, one of the most unique games I played this year, just because I thought it was kind of doing something fresh and interesting from like a gameplay experience standpoint, and that is actually none other than The Alters. So as I review more and more games, the more I find that games that can do something that feels unique to me or new to me in some way are usually going to catch my attention more than most things. The Alters, putting you at the heart of a crisis on a distant planet where you were meant to mine a special resource, you are instead now trying to escape with your life and hopefully get people to rescue you. But in order to do this, long story short, you gotta clone yourself a bunch of times. And much of the story revolves around you arguing with yourself, or various versions of yourself, as these clones are a little bit different. They are your alters, with past life decisions having been projected and simulated out via this technology. And overall, it was just a bizarrely interesting game that was doing some fun stuff with the narrative especially, and while the gameplay is decidedly less unique, to be honest, being a mix of like survival and some base building elements. But either way, I came away from that game with the feeling that I've never played anything quite like it before, and so that is why I'm giving it this award. Next up, the best remaster or remake, I suppose, kind of throw them all into one here. I played and reviewed a lot of different remakes and remasters this year. Avernum 4, Oblivion Remastered, Dragon Quest 1 and 2's HD 2D remake, Final Fantasy Tactics The Ivalice Chronicle, the System Shock 2 remaster, the Trails in the Sky remake. Honestly, just a lot of these types of games, and so much so that I wanted to include it here, and for me, the winner by a long shot was ultimately Oblivion Remastered. I love Oblivion for a variety of different reasons, but the remastered version, as I have described it before, is almost like somebody took down notes from me about what I would love in a new different version of that game and made it happen, and it was an incredible experience to run back through all of that content in a new way, after having just the year before actually done a full clear of the original version so I could review it and talk about that game at length, only to turn around and get this beautifully updated one. And while I understand that this game did have some performance problems for some people, I never really encountered any issues like that, and so for me it was just a wonderful trip down memory lane that also provided a lot of people, hopefully, a way to jump into this game for the first time. And so for me, the winner of that category, again, by quite the long shot. We are far from done, though. This next one may or may not be contentious, I honestly don't know, but I was going over my favorite JRPG from this year, and while I have, again, played quite a few of these, like Trails in the Sky, and then stuff like the Dragon Quest remakes, etc., ultimately I think I've got to give this one to Expedition 33, which may or may not be contentious, I suppose, depending on how people choose to define JRPGs. But for me at least, Expedition 33, more than anything else, is in fact a JRPG first. And in that regard, I think it really excels at everything it tries to do. But more than anything, the story was incredibly moving, really sticks with you afterwards. I had a great time playing through it, and the combat system, while not for everybody, was enjoyable enough for me. And then finding all the secrets, especially ahead of release, as I had a review key ahead of time for this one, which means I got to experience a lot of that stuff for myself, all on my own, and I had a great time doing exactly that. And because of all that, it was just a really great experience all around, and I think as a game that was so obviously inspired by a lot of JRPGs of yesteryear, it really iterated on some of that formula in, again, a really fascinating and moving way, which is why it is certainly on the fast track to a lot of people's Game of the Year pick. But it's not my Game of the Year pick, but we're gonna keep it moving. Next up, we've got a horror title, which is a bit of a new one for me. I actually played several different horror games this year. Chronos: The New Dawn, Sleep Awake, Silent Hill F even, but more than anything, I just wanted to put this in here so I had an excuse to talk about how much I really wound up enjoying Chronos: The New Dawn. While horror games are not my usual cup of tea, especially psychological horror games or even survival horror games, Chronos just really resonated with me personally. A lot of that was due to the aesthetic of the game, and then trying to take out these monstrosities known as orphans and their fleshy mass as you try to manage, of course, all your resources, which is the survival horror part of it, which can actually be pretty difficult. And that stuff, combined with the narrative itself, trying to get to the bottom of how this orphan problem came to be and how the world ended and what these travelers, you in particular, actually are, what their purpose is, and all of that combined with the moment-to-moment gameplay just really resonated with me, and it seems to have worked out well for everybody else as well, because while hardly a blockbuster or anything, Chronos did review very well, which I was glad to see because I had a lot of fun with it personally, but you know, it's not my usual genre, so I was curious how it would land for everyone else. Either way though, my favorite horror game this year for sure. Next up, we've got my favorite indie game. Now this was an interesting one because this year, more than other years, I really feel like people are kind of all over the place with what they have decided is an indie game. Like personally, Expedition 33 is not an indie game as far as I'm concerned, but I do get where people are coming from with that. However, for me personally, indie-wise, I've got to give it to none other than The Necromancer's Tale. This is an indie CRPG made by a very small studio, but they made a very unique game. So The Necromancer's Tale, as the name would suggest, tells the tale of someone on the road to becoming a necromancer, and it's a really well done version of that. Taking on the role of your character, you have to return home after news of your father's death, and you slowly unravel his secrets and get embroiled in all these dark and arcane arts, which leads you down the path of said necromancer. You have to do things like keep your activities secret from the townsfolk, figure out all these rituals, do quests around town, and it's just a fantastic little game. And while what it does is extremely niche, the thing that it does very, very well. I really had a blast with the Necromancer's Tale, and I think they just kind of like perfectly captured the sort of fantasy of, becoming a necromancer really, really well, which is why I think this game actually works. With really something like the Lich Mythic Path from Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous being the only thing that springs to mind that really captures even close to the same feel, and even then it's not the main focus there. But for all of those reasons, had a blast with this one. If you find yourself looking for something a little bit different for relatively cheap, maybe give it a go. Moving into a couple of larger categories now, however, I wanted to include my favorite DLC from this year. I have, in fact, reviewed quite a bit of DLC. All of the Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance DLC, the Indiana Jones DLC, Lex Imperialis for Rogue Trader, Still Wakes the Deep Siren's Rest Overture from Lies of P, Throes of the Watchmaker from Sea of Stars. It's been a busy year for DLC, actually. And yet there has to be a winner, and for me at least, it was definitely the Overture DLC from Lies of P. And while some people may have expected Lex Imperialis, I did enjoy that one quite a bit, but it wasn't quite as good as Void Shadows, and ultimately I think the Overture DLC was just a fantastic bit of content to an already fantastic game that added a lot of fun mechanics, a lot of fun bosses, and even some difficulty settings to allow people to hopefully enjoy the game that is Lies of P that much more. So when push comes to shove, I think it was definitely my favorite. But speaking of Souls-likes with Lies of P, what was my favorite Souls-like this year? Honestly, I think if you watch the channel much at all, you already know that the answer is the first Berserker, Kazan. I've played a fair few Souls-likes this year, and I usually do. I enjoy them well enough, but this year, nothing really came close to what Kazan was for me. I just had a blast with the way that game's mechanics works, the combat styles and stuff, the little quality of life features they added, and I'll try to keep this one short just because I think people have heard me bang on about Kazan many times over at this point, but I really did have a blast with that game, and the fact that it did not even get nominated for an actual game award at the Game Awards is criminal. It's crazy to me that that game did not get nominated. And so while it might not be number one on the charts, it's number one in our hearts, or whatever else people say, I guess. But that does ultimately bring us to our penultimate entry for the action series, and I've got to give this to Ninja Gaiden 4, which is a game that, truth be told, I'm not very good at, but I did have a blast with it. The combat was a ton of fun, which is probably a good thing given that the game really doesn't have too much else going on besides its combat, and truth be told, wasn't really a big fan of Yakumo. However, ultimately action games are about the action, and on that front I had a blast being really bad at Ninja Gaiden 4's combat system. And speaking for myself, at least, of course, it was really fascinating to see a system in motion and be able to understand the ins and outs of it and also just completely fail at the execution. I did okay, but I certainly died a lot, mind you, but I did alright up until Master Ninja difficulty, and then I was just getting absolutely wrecked. And so, while I've played a few different action games, or I think games that could fall under that larger umbrella generally, in terms of the actual action itself, I've really got to hand it to Ninja Gaiden 4, which is what we are doing here. That does, however, bring us to the final entry, the most important perhaps, the Game of the Year award. For me, it was Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 all day, every day. I had a blast concluding Henry's journey. I am fairly certain it is the game I have played most in terms of just raw number of hours this year. I completed the hardcore all negative perks run, played through all the DLCs, of course, and while the DLCs themselves were a little on the short side for my liking, I was hoping they would be a little more expansive than they ultimately were, but still, it was fun. It's just an incredibly fantastic, systematic journey that really delivers on the promises and moments that were set up in the first game with, where that story was probably going to go. And it's such a payoff, so much so that if I was doing a specific RPG category, it would probably ultimately win that too. I really just had so much fun with this game. And while there were plenty of other RPGs this year that I also enjoyed, at the end of the day, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was the biggest, the boldest, and honestly, just like its predecessor, reminds me a lot of Oblivion, which is probably a good part of why I liked it so much. Either way, though, can't wait to see what Warhorse Studios does next, as this is pretty much the end of Henry's journey, but man, what a journey it was. which is why it wins the ultimate prize this year. But that is pretty much going to do it for this particular video. Certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you did, by all means, like, comment, subscribe. I'm sure I already have a million comments about everybody else's favorite games or Game of the Year winners for them personally. And so, while you're busy judging my Game of the Year picks, tell me yours so I can judge them as well. But in all seriousness, I appreciate you guys sharing this year in gaming with me. I had a blast with it. I hope you had half as much fun as I did. Still some more stuff to come, but it's already been great. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.
So, indie games recently have been popping off. And I mean, like, really, really, really popping off. Like, they've been doing extremely well. I'm actually even kind of shocked at how well a lot of these indie games are doing. And why are indie games performing so well? I will tell you why. It's because they are actually video games. Like, if I go right now and I look at SteamDB, how many of these video games are indie games? Banana is unfortunately an indie game. And I think Repo is an indie game. And it looks like Megabonk is no longer on the list, but Megabonk was also an indie game, and so was Ball Pit very recently. Give me 1 second. I've got to use the bathroom, and then we're going to watch the video, okay? So, yeah, it's been crazy. Why don't you take the mic with you? Because I have to pre-watch the entire video while I'm gone, so I know how to react to it in the most optimal way. That's clearly what's going on.
In the last few weeks, 6 indie games have been released.
I love this game, by the way. This is, like, I've been playing this game a lot off stream. This game is so good.
Made by teams of 5 people or less, and combined they've sold over 8
this is
million
RV area.
copies. While studios with
play
hundreds of developers, hundreds of millions in the bank are shutting down, these absolute lunatics are winning, and it's not even close. 2025 has proved something. When you make something genuinely new, genuinely weird, genuinely passionate, we notice. 6 games, all completely unique, all from tiny teams willing to try something no one else would, and they're being rewarded for it, because innovation beats budget, risk beats formula, fun beats focus groups.
Well, look at Napoleon Dynamite, for example. I mean, think about how successful that movie was, and that shit was filmed with a budget of, like, I'd say like $16, right? I mean, that's it. A lot of video games, you don't really need to do a whole lot of crazy stuff. All you really need to do is just make something that's fun to play, and you don't need $1 billion for that.
Gaming isn't broken, it's just happening somewhere else right now. And this year, it's undeniable. Indie games are winning, so let's break down these 6 games and why they matter. Let's start with the most ridiculous one, RV There Yet. It's a co-op game where up to 4 players try to drive a falling apart RV out of a deadly valley. Kind of like Overcooked meets off-roading, you're steering, repairing,
I really feel like this is the one thing as a streamer that I don't do. I never play video games with other people. I feel like if I did that, the last time that I did that was whenever me, McConnell, and Grayson played Dark and Darker, when Dark and Darker first came out, and people loved it. I gotta do that again.
Vehicle up cliffs while everything explodes around you. It's physics-based chaos.
That was a good day.
5 people made this, veterans from Coffee Stain, the Goat Simulator studio, but still 5 people, and they built the game in 3 months. Started as a game jam prototype, they liked it, fleshed it out.
You're telling me they cooked this thing up in 3 months? And you got, oh man, come on.
3 months from concept to release. It cost just £6, sold 1.3 million copies, hit 100,000 concurrent players on Steam in its first weekend, and for context, that's incredible. More than most AAA games see at launch. And here's why it worked. They embraced the jank, the RVs.
It's because the game's good, and yeah, you're right. A lot of friction inside of video games, like developers that are good know how to create good friction. Developers that are bad create bad friction. It's pretty simple.
funky controls, the physics glitches that send you flying. It's not a bug, it's a feature. They knew it, shipped it anyway because the chaos was the point. Speed, madness, fun over perfection, and it paid off. These guys are laughing all the way to the bank right now. Then there's Clover Pit.
Honestly, like watching this does make me want to play the game.
Now warning, because this one is addictive. Don't say I didn't tell you.
Queso beat this game solo. Did he?
It's a roguelike where you're trapped in a cell with a demonic slot machine. You spin to earn coins to pay off your debt each round, or you literally fall into a pit. It's part luck.
Why can't we do this in real life?
Part strategy. You're manipulating reels, triggering combos.
So this is like Balatro, but you die?
Charms to bend the odds, trying to snowball into a lucky run before you go bankrupt. 2 people made this game, 2 Italian dudes from Panic Arcade.
Nice.
That's it. It cost just £8.50, sold 100,000 copies in the first 24 hours, hit
100,000 in a day? That's incredible. Wow.
500,000 sales in just 8 days.
Holy
Currently sitting
shit.
at over 750,000.
I've never even heard of this
sold with a 90% positive rating on Steam.
See, I really got to get my head to the ground and be listening to these games, man. Because, like, I feel like I'm so far behind the ball in terms of playing a lot of these newer, cool games. I am so bad at this right now. I need to do a better job.
Takes slot machine mechanics and turns them into pure gameplay dopamine. No microtransactions, no real money, just the addiction of watching combos pop off and your numbers go up. They made gambling fun instead of predatory, and we noticed. And a personal favorite of mine, Bull X Pit. This one's
this is my favorite, bro. I love this game so much.
Properly mental. It's a roguelike that mashes together Breakout, Vampire Survivors, city building, and probably even more inspirations I've missed. You're batting magic balls up into hordes of enemies like a brick breaker. The balls ricochet and destroy things. You collect loot and power-ups, and then by the end of the run, the screen's filled with a ton of bouncing balls, obliterating everything. Between runs, you
I remember whenever this game was like popular in like 1996, the version of this game back then. I liked that game back then too, because you could get the ball and you could knock it up and then it would go bing 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 bing, and I was like, oh yeah, I would feel so good.
Switch into building a little city that unlocks permanent upgrades. It's multiple genres, one game, outrageously addictive, easy to pick up, satisfying to master, unique, addictive, fun. And it was made by only one person, Kenny-san.
Who the fuck did this? One guy?
A solo developer, cost $12.99, sold 400,000 copies in its first week.
Should be more.
Overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam almost immediately. Here's why it works. Kenny threw multiple genres together with zero compromises. Stupid chaos that somehow just makes sense. Most studios would have workshopped this to death.
I think actually there's a little bit more reason than madness here. I actually think that the way this game is balanced and the way the city building and the way the character design is made is actually extremely thoughtful and very good. It's extremely fucking good.
Is it a roguelike? Is it a city builder? Pick one. He didn't. He just made all of it. And the result is something you genuinely can't find anywhere else. Unique in the truest sense. Highly recommend. Escape from Duckov, Ducks with guns. It's a top-down extraction shooter that just parodies Escape from Tarkov, a notoriously hardcore extraction shooter. You're literally a duck with a gun, scavenging loot, fighting hostile ducks and geese, trying to...
So, is this game really as good as people think it is?
Extract alive with your loot before time runs out. 5 people made this game. Team
5
Soda,
people.
A small internal studio at Bilibili, the Chinese publisher, gave them the marketing muscle, but the actual dev team is tiny. It's a case of indie spirit with mid-marketing muscle, but the actual
is that the Chud? I thought that was the fucking Chud meme.
It's a case of indie spirit with mid-tier backing. It cost just $16.99, sold 1 million copies in its first week. Currently sitting at 3 million copies sold with 94% overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. It hit 300,000 peak concurrent players. And I'll be honest, this isn't really my kind of game, but here's what they did. They took
this game looks awesome to me. I think this is really cool.
Tarkov's hardcore extraction loop, tension, the depth, the loot systems, and made it PvE, solo friendly, kept everything that makes the genre interesting, removed the toxic PvP grief. Everyone assumed it would just be a meme. It looks like a meme, it smells like a meme, ducks with AKs, funny screenshots, move on. But it turns out it's a legitimately deep, polished shooter RPG that respects your time, and the players rewarded that massively. Slots and Daggers is a new fantasy roguelike where your dungeon battles play out on a slot machine. You're venturing through floors, fighting goblins and ogres, but instead of choosing attacks from a menu, you pull a slot lever. The symbols that line up dictate what happens. Swords mean you attack, potions heal you, shields block, critical hits, stuff like that. But there's strategy. You can hold certain reels, equip charms that bias outcomes, essentially deck build your slot machine before each run. It's inspired by D&D clearly, but filtered through casino mechanics. One person made this.
Yeah, this is really good too. This reminds me kind of like Uma Musume. Like, I remember playing that game and I was like, because before I played Uma, I would have never played a game like this, but now I think that I would be more I would be more willing to try it out.
A solo German developer, 6 months of development. It costs £4
Pretty
right now.
derby.
Only been out for 4 days. Already sold 50,000 copies with 94% positive reviews on Steam. He just made one weird thing really well. Intentionally crude art style, proper hand-drawn, small scope.
I don't think it's crude. I mean, I actually think that this art style is very deliberate and well done. I think that every art style, like if you go with a PS1 art style, or like this is like a 2000s, you know, this is a video game that would run on Windows 2000 Professional, right? And it would be a great game. That's the kind of experience that I think a lot of people like. They enjoy those types of games. And so really, it's not about the graphics. It's not about anything else. It's just about the gameplay. That's what matters more than anything, is the gameplay and the fluidity of the gameplay. And that's what AAA developers really lack right now, is that they just don't really have that ability to lock down a enjoyable, fun gameplay loop. That's the big weakness. And it seems like it's like, oh, the big problem with video games nowadays is the game part of the game. Yeah, that's it. It's more accessible. Yeah, and a lot of these other games too, another big factor with them is that they reward short, intensive play sessions. And I think that that's something that, you know, for example, Balatro did very well. It's something that Vampire Survivors did very well. And I think that you're seeing like people move away from the longer engagement, you know, 40-minute, maybe 30-minute league games, and people want a 10-minute game. They want a 15-minute game or a 5-minute game that they can pause or move in and out of.
But polished, no chasing scale or endless content, just a tight replayable loop.
Back to basics,
something genuinely new. I've got a feeling this one could blow up pretty soon. Another one I highly recommend checking out.
Maybe I'll try it out.
Megabonk, we covered this one already. A solo developer, Vampire Survivors in 3D, sold 1 million copies in 2 weeks. Currently estimated around 3 million copies.
This was a really good game. I hate to say it, I actually liked Ball Pit more. But that also comes as a bit of a boomer who really just loves arcade games. I really love arcade games. So, you know, Ball Pit was definitely for me, but I really like this game too.
Sold. It's the same pattern, tiny team, weird idea, massive success.
Yep.
So what do all of these have in common? Innovation, risk, fun first, sales second.
They were made with a combined budget of less than a meal for 2 people at Five Guys.
Vision from people who clearly love games. While 26% of European game professionals were laid off in the past year, with over 10% of them still looking for work and 13% of them leaving the industry entirely, these tiny teams were just building something genuine.
Another thing too is that a lot of these video game, like these guys that are really good at coding, some of them might have skills that are unique to the video game industry, but some of them have skills that I think can be translated to other industries. So like, where do you think you're going to get paid better? Are you going to get paid better at, you know, one of these like new drone defense companies like Anduril or something like that, or Palantir? Or are you going to get paid better at Blizzard? Ah, geez, guys. Ooh. Yeah, you've got FinTech. Yeah, well, that's another one too. Yeah, financial technology, exactly. Yeah.
new. The craziest part of all of this, you can buy all 6 of these games for less than one AAA release at 60 quid. 6 completely unique experiences, hundreds of hours of gameplay, all innovative, all made by people who took genuine risk because they love video games. And most of these games had more daily players than Bloodlines 2.
That was a flopperooski, wasn't it?
Game, a game that peaked at 27,000 concurrent players on Steam for a fraction of the price and a fraction of the development time. The pattern's clear: small teams moving fast, building what they actually want to play.
Well, it's what I've been saying before, right? Where a lot of these video games become too big to succeed. The machine becomes so big and so bureaucratic that it becomes oppressive and actually a barrier to creativity and to productivity. And I think that you see this happen in all kinds of industries where small teams that are efficient can be more agile and function like a Viking longboat. I feel like a lot of Viking longboats probably didn't crash and hit icebergs and fucking everybody dies, right? I'm sure it happened, but not like the Titanic. You know, it's much easier to turn one of those than it is a Titanic. And I think that's what happens, is that you have these really, really big games that are in development for 7 or 10 years, and big surprise, by the time this game comes out, the entire industry has changed. And I think that really small teams are able to look at a trend, immediately see what the customers want, react to it, create a gameplay loop, and then put it out there. I think that also there's a lot of video games now that have so many additional and extra things attached to them. So like a really good example of this, and this is like a criticism that I have, is like Digimon has like a card game that's built into it. I think it's kind of like Gwent. That's what I would assume. There is no reason for that to be in the game. There a lot of these like weird features that video games have that are like these like secondary game functions. Really, I hate the card game. I don't even know what it is. I never even played them. LOL people like those. I don't really think that they matter. Really, I don't like mini games inside of video games. I think are way overdone right now. They are tremendously overdone, and like meta level progression, mini game progression, stuff like that, I think is totally fucking overdone. And there's just so much of it now that it's exhausting.
He's diluting the vision. No focus groups, removing
like, the reason why, for example, it works for a game like Ball Pit is that it's basically it's your upgrade function, the same as you had in Hades, right? For example. So it's okay, and it's also very, very fast. You place your buildings, then you shoot the guys out, and then you're done, and you do another mission, right? It's not this long, involved process. Yakuza says otherwise. Well, Yakuza has its own, like, I mean, so does Mario Party, right? But, like, it's a different genre of type of game. But, and I think also it's known for that type of stuff. It's like WarioWare, for example. But I think that in general, a lot of these video games that try to be like an everything game, I think that they just end up exhausting players.
It's just, here's an idea, let's make it, ship
this game
it, see
made
what
an
happens.
MMO. Yeah, I played an MMO a lot.
Properly
That's how
working.
I know.
2025
like
has
video
truly
game
proved something. Innovation beats budget, passion beats polish, fun beats everything. Gaming
fun and just gameplay. Gameplay matters more than anything, right? But the Digimon game is fun, plus it has sprites from the original V-Pet toys. Yeah, I just think it's just bloat. It doesn't matter, and it's just more bullshit that I don't care about. Like, I get some people might care about it. They might like it. I don't. I think it's a waste of space. It's a waste of time, and then there's no reason to have it. That's where I'm at. That's what I think.
It isn't broken. It's just happening somewhere else right now.
Yep.
In basements, spare bedrooms, small studios who still remember why they got into this industry in the first place. That's where all the innovation is happening right now. And if you can't see it by now, then you need to get your eyes checked. As always, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a
really
like,
good
drop
video.
a comment, and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more where this came from. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.
W video. Absolutely. Give me a second. Wait a second. Sorry. Another video. Anyway, my point is that I really, really like this. I totally agree with it. Have you beaten the Moon Boss? I have not. Clover Pit is fire, by the way. Maybe I should try it out. Here's the thing. Mouthwashing was also very good storytelling. Indie devs are just better at that. Well, are also better at that? Well, I think that, I mean, you can have great storytelling at a AAA level, like, for example, Expedition 33. Like, you can have that, It's just that in many of these games, it just simply is not there. Give the video a like. I think this is really good from Veteran Joystick. And I saw it recommended to me, and I wanted to try it out myself. So this duck game is actually pretty popular. I'll watch this. I'm not going to watch it today, but I'll watch it maybe tomorrow or something. I've never seen one of his videos before. He only has 25,000 subs. So I'll have to try it out and see what happens. And indie devs don't have the restrictions on storytelling or interceptors. Well, I think also that here's another really big reason why indie devs are successful. The reason why is because indie development, you're telling a story, and there's only like 3 or 2 people that are involved in writing the story. Whereas whenever you're telling the story for maybe Assassin's Creed Shadows, you had 30, 40, 50 people that are involved in one way or another with the narrative design. And so whenever you have such a large team spread out, the message of a story gets diluted. And I think that unless you have like one guy that's at the helm that's directing this, like for example, the way the Kojima, right, is he's the guy that's directing the way the story is going to go, then you're going to have a problem with making things like that happen. Yeah, also you have HR. Yeah, sure. And you have 30 people telling them how to change it. Yeah, it's like, it's very hard to design something that is a, you know, like a creative passion by consensus, especially not by corporate consensus. And I think that's the big weakness that a lot of these games have, is that they're just they're designed by consensus. That's it. Have you seen Ben Shapiro crashing out in the Megyn Kelly show? No, I haven't. I'll look at that in a minute. But yeah, designed by HR. Well, it's approved by HR. It's not designed by HR, but it's approved. Expedition 33 Studio wasn't AAA size. Yeah, I think they had like 30-something developers, right? So it was actually extremely small. And everyone being on board for the creation journey, yeah. And also, whenever you have 5 people that you're working with, it's much harder for things to be lost in translation because there are a few people that are translating. So now, whenever you have all these people constantly talking and doing all this stuff, it's hard to really have a consistent, universal message. And I think that's the big difference, too.
Time to bring the thunder. Within cripples. Hey,
People are so mad about Steam because they've effectively created a monopoly by just being good. They're calling Steam a monopoly now because it's the best service and everybody's using it.
Every time these CEOs open their mouths, the only thing that spews forth is platitudes, nonsense, and a severe misunderstanding of not only their customers, but just video games as a baseline.
Yep.
We have Microsoft CEO coming out talking about how video game companies are no longer competing against one another. No, instead they're competing against TikTok. And the only way to be able to compete is with better margins. Why are you guys like this? I swear, the video game industry and video games are so easy to figure out. Just make better games. And I'm sure there's going to be...
And also, here's another thing. Make games. So many video games now are like... It's like a cutscene corridor. You're walking down an office building, and it's like, all right, turn to your right. Okay, so there was an explosion, and the planet got destroyed. And then, okay, next door, turn right. Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, they're not making video games anymore. They're making movies. It's so obnoxious. Drives me crazy.
Some people that are going to say, LD, it's not that easy. And to which I respond, well, then you shouldn't be making video games. If you make a game that is good enough that I can't put it down, that means I can't pick up my phone.
Yeah.
Then we have Amazon out here lamenting their long-awaited exit from the games industry, tail between their legs, revealing that their 15-year-long plan of buying a game platform, of building these studios and making games, of buying Twitch, all of it was to fuel their ambition to take down Steam by buying them out of the industry. All the while they're failing, nobody's learning any of the lessons that need to be learned from any of this. So today, we're going to be talking about just how deluded these CEOs are and how little they actually think about or care about the games that are being made or the customers that they're supposed to be serving. How Steam still does nothing and comes out on top.
Because we don't want them to do anything. That's the secret. We don't want the new update. We don't want the big crazy change. We don't need the improvement to the UI. It's fucking fine. Stop messing with it. Just keep doing it. That's it.
One dirty little book is going to ruin everything.
Uh-oh.
But before that, I heard that you were having trouble finding gifts for this holiday season, and it just so happens I got your back.
What gift?
Ever seen a pen do this? Today's video is sponsored by Novium, the creators of the Hover Pen Interstellar, a pen that literally floats in midair. No tricks, no electricity, just precision-engineered magnets keeping it suspended like it's something out of a sci-fi movie. It's made from aerospace-grade aluminum. It feels great to write with, and
what the fuck?
Insane on my desk. The Interstellar even won the Time Award for innovation, and there's a premium version with an actual meteorite embedded in the tip, meaning that you can hold something that is older than the Earth itself. It comes in colors like space black, Neptune blue, and Mars magma, and the packaging alone
Does
makes
the red one spin faster?
A perfect gift for yourself or anyone else that appreciates something a little different. If you prefer something a little bit more customizable, check out the Hover Pen Future, which lets you switch between a fountain pen or a rollerball tip, still keeping that same futuristic design. Right now, you can get 15% off of all Hover Pens.
That's
for the
actually
next 48
crazy.
Hours and
I never heard about
10%
that.
After that, with free shipping worldwide. Use my code Legendary or click the link in the description or pinned comment. You can also use the QR code on screen to go straight to the website with the discount automatically applied.
I think this is a perfect bullshit YouTube ad. It is. This is the perfect, as seen on TV, call right now, and you're gonna get your pen that's older than the Earth. This is what YouTube ads need to be. Little things like this. This is perfect.
Shields down.
Novium for sponsoring today's video. For a while now, I've been wondering, contemplating why we have seen such a sharp decline in quality from AAA games. Where a lot of these harebrained decisions are coming from, how quickly this...
Because they hired a bunch of retards to make video games? That's the reason why. It's pretty fucking obvious, isn't it? I mean, I feel like it kind of is obvious.
Industry has just been carved up, commodified, part and parcel. It just feels like every single move is being made to just make things that much more worse. And I've been trying to just track this mindset down, get a finger on it, and I kept hearing about this book that's titled Press Play, Why Every Company Needs a Gaming Strategy. And it came out this year, and it's been endorsed by multiple brands, most notably by Xbox. And this book is crazy.
What a surprise.
The whole entire thing is basically a corporate handbook about how more companies need to get involved in gaming, not to make games, but to fuel their revenue, drive engagement, and to monetize attention in the digital age. I haven't even finished this book yet, but the opening chapter of it just tells you everything that you need to know. They start by celebrating Burberry and Balenciaga for selling cosmetics in crypto games.
Shields down.
We are so cooked.
Can I do out? Calmly.
Oh my god.
Entering phase space.
Attention monopoly. Yeah, this is crazy.
They framed the decline of cable television as an opportunity to be able to keep consumers constantly engaged with brand content through interactive worlds and video games. And they actually...
Who is this for? People that are like... it should be illegal to sell this book. It should be illegal. You shouldn't be able to sell a book like this. People are gonna read it, they're gonna make something stupid. They're gonna hurt themselves.
They claim that this is why Microsoft doubled down on gaming, and it's why they spent nearly $70 billion buying Activision Blizzard back in 2023.
Yeah.
But not once, not a single time do they ever describe players as anything other than consumers, these flocks that need to be herded towards more ads, more spending, and more manipulation. There's no talk about why people play, what they enjoy, or what makes the experience worthwhile, because... well, that's just not the concern anymore. Not for these executives, and I think that we can see that mindset perfectly reflected in Microsoft's own CEO, Satya Nadella.
So I think that's what happens, right? Is that like, yeah, they're not even thinking about what the consumer wants. They're not thinking about what the player wants. They're thinking about how to make the most amount of money possible by selling these fucking games. That's the issue. We want entries in a spreadsheet? Yeah. It's like, that's what's so crazy is that all of these games come out that are just raw video games, things like Megabonk or games like Ball Pit or whatever. And you have so many of these indie successes that don't go and waste everybody's time making you do 50 dumb little tasks. It's just raw, direct, short form, fast-paced gameplay. That's all people want. And for some reason, it just can't be delivered.
That's the way we are thinking about gaming.
These big companies can't do
for now,
it.
we're the largest publisher. After the Activision. So therefore, we want to be a fantastic publisher. Similar approach to what we did with Office. We're going to be everywhere in every platform. But most importantly, the game business model has to be where we have to invent maybe some new interactive media as well. Because after all, the gaming's competition is not other gaming. Gaming's competition is short form video.
Okay, you're right. So here's what you need to do, bro. Y'all have this problem where you keep making video games that are cutscene simulators that aren't fun to play. So if you want to have people not put down not put down your game and look up TikTok, make your game consistently entertaining and consistently engaging, and don't sign games and make games that it's like you watch a 3-minute cutscene, you walk from one door to another door, you have a 2-minute cutscene, and then after that you have to teleport somewhere else, and then it's a 5-minute cutscene. Unless that's the end of the game, that should never happen. Unless it is a story game with no gameplay.
And so if we as an industry don't continue to innovate, both how we produce, what we produce, how we think about distribution, the economic model, right? Best way to innovate is to have good margins. Because that's the way you can fund.
Not competing with other game companies. Now, that is a strategy. It's not one that I'd recommend to anybody else, but it does make a lot of sense coming from the premier publisher of some of the most I'll pick it up on sale games in the industry. When you stop competing with the rest of the industry, your priorities shift and your quality shifts with it. I cannot be the only one that looks at nearly every new Xbox release and says, yeah, that's a video game, instead of saying, damn, that's something I need to play. How exactly does that fit?
A lot of the games that are in Xbox nowadays, I don't really feel like are that great. Like, I was really holding out for Doom the Dark Ages. I thought that game was going to be really good, and I just really didn't like it. I didn't, man. I thought it was just very flaccid.
Into your business strategy.
Extremely
the part
flaccid.
that really gets me is when he starts talking about treating Xbox the same way that they treated Office. What? The Office business is sustained by other businesses and institutions, not individuals. I don't know a single person that uses Office at home. Most people are using Google Docs, Notion, or Obsidian. The entire model relies on corporate licensing, not customer loyalty, and trying to apply that thinking.
I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think that there's a lot of people, there's like an unspoken large amount of people that have home office. I do, because it really, they've spent so much time developing that kind of dependency on it. Yeah, I use Office at home. Yeah, I think a lot of people do, especially older people. Like, probably not people in our generation, but like even one generation above us, like people that are like 40 and over. I think a lot of them probably have Office. Maybe not a majority, but a lot.
Video games just proves how disconnected this leadership is. Their focus is completely shifted. Instead of building great games, they're out here trying to make sure that every single screen can run some version of their ecosystem. It's all about service expansion, tiered access, add-ons, subscription padding, more studios to be able to feed that pipeline, and cuts anywhere that do not serve that loop. When you're not competing with other studios, you are no longer competing on quality. And when you're competing with social media, all you're really doing is chasing engagement. And if your content isn't any good, well, neither is your engagement.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the problem is that the video games are just simply not engaging. This is a big problem that I think games have now, is that they are just very simply and very obviously not that engaging to play. I felt that way with Ghosts of Yotai a little bit. I felt that way with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Like, I logged on to the game, like, after I was playing it on stream, and I was pretty much done playing it on stream, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play it off stream. I was like, I asked myself, I'm like, what am I really doing this for? Why am I really here? and then I quit.
Bro, just get it over with already. This is the slowest, most painful exit I have ever seen. Their next console isn't even a console. It's a hybrid console PC, reportedly shipping with Steam already integrated, which from a
brilliant decision, by the way. Xbox is actually making a great call with this. I totally support this decision.
Hardware standpoint, sure, that sounds fine. A mid-range build for people that want to get easier access into PC gaming, but it completely kills the point of Xbox as a platform. If Xbox games are already on Steam and Steam is going to be included with the console, then what exactly is Xbox supposed to be? Steam winning yet again by doing nothing. I am just...
Yeah, I think, honestly, the Xbox and... I feel like Steam has integration with... They're probably going to have it integrated with Game Pass, right? And so you're going to be able to play games with it on Game Pass and also with Steam. Because they know that you have to have Steam, and also these games run on Windows. Because part of like Microsoft's video game strategy is to also create an ecosystem that is continually reliant on Windows. Because that's probably where they make a lot of money too. So, like, it's an entire ecosystem that if you take one more step out of it, you can really see how everything fits together.
Shields down.
So tired of the circle that these guys speak in. We're competing with the attention economy. We need better margins. No, you need better games. You want people's attention? Make something that we can't put down. Tons of developers are already doing this by creating something that nobody else has made, or by building a culture of quality that earns loyalty. Tell me how you're competing with the attention economy when the next From Software game comes out. Tell me how that works with the next Larian project that's going to drop. When Sandfall does it, there are studios that are out there that are commanding attention because they deserve it. Look at Baldur's Gate 3. Most players have hundreds of hours in that game. It's a single-player game with no...
It's massively fucking popular, and I think that it's shocking how many people still regularly play Baldur's Gate 3. It's insane.
New content in 2 years, and it is still pulling 70,000 concurrent players on Steam. They act like we don't on a monthly basis see multiple games break through and find massive audiences. Oh, maybe that's because those games are half the price and actually worth...
Also, like, if you look at Arc Raiders, for example, Arc Raiders, you just immediately start playing the game. You immediately spawn in, you're playing the game. There's a cutscene, you make your character. There's a cutscene, then you're playing the game again. That's it. And that's all it is. You're just playing the game. So many of these developers want to become, you know, movie directors. You're not Kojima. Stop it. Just make a video game.
Their fucking time. Then he goes on to say the best way to compete with short-form content is by having better margins. Right, because nothing screams great games like an arbitrary 30% profit target.
Yeah, let's a 30% margin target? That's insane. That is really, really... Oh, okay, well, do you think what's going to happen with SteamOS once PC releases for functioning daily use and not just games? I think that Windows has such a massive hegemony over people's expectations that SteamOS will probably only be adopted... It will be adopted by, this is my guess, less than 5% of users after 10 years of PC users. Because people have grown up using Windows for 30 years. Windows, and also Windows works. That's another thing too. Windows does work. It's not like it's a bad operating system. I mean, yeah, it has issues, but I'm sure SteamOS will have issues too.
Number that is so divorced from reality, by the way, that it doesn't even exist in this industry. Most of these publishers are operating on razor-thin margins. Nintendo floats around 20% on a good year. PlayStation's under 10. The only company that I know of that's around 30% is probably Valve, and that comparison is a joke. Valve is a platform that makes games as a hobby. Xbox is a platform that needs games to survive. You cannot hold yourself to that same metric without destroying everything that makes this medium work. And, of course, that's exactly what's happening.
I think we're going to get more ads in video games pretty soon. I think that there's probably going to be different versions of video games that get sold. And inside of the free versions of the games, there will be real estate inside of video games that is reserved for in-game advertising that players see, but then they can maybe pay extra money to opt out of. That's probably what I think is going to happen. Like, if I was a money-hungry accounting demon, that's what I would do. Please don't say that. Well, that's smart, right? Wouldn't you do that? It's already happened? No, but to an extent, won't play the game. You won't play that game until it becomes the game that you're going to play, and then you're going to play the game. I know people say, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And people will accept this. They will. They will accept it.
Only way that Xbox can sniff 30% margins is by gutting itself from the inside out, raising prices, laying off workers, cutting corners, and shoving unfinished games through the door to be able to save a quarter's worth of cost. Since 2024, they have laid off over 10,000 employees. Xbox Game Pass is
so far
risen in prices. They delayed the $80 price hike, but that's still going to be coming. They've slowed down their console production.
$80 video games? Are you kidding me? Holy shit.
Because their sales are down nearly 30% year over year, and Outer Worlds 2 somehow launched with worse.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. The reason why